Welcome to There Is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell and I'm an exercise physiologist. I'm the owner of Maxwell's Fitness Programs and I've been in business since 1994. Today's podcast is all about what I call the core four. The core four of the types of exercise programming that I like to use with my clients. And I'm going to talk about why we pick them and why they're great and all that good stuff. But before that, I want to thank our sponsors, Jonathan and Lynn Gilden at the Gilden Group at Realty Pros. They currently have over 275-star reviews on Zillow and over 100 million in sales between them. If you need to sell your house or you're looking to buy a house, give them a shout. I can absolutely vouch for them. Jonathan and or Lynn can be reached at 386-451-2412 or at thegildengroup.com. Now for today's topic, the core four. If you've ever been led to believe that there is a perfect way to exercise, you have been led astray. There really isn't a perfect way. There are good ways, there are better ways, and there are not so good ways. I would argue that the not so good ways are better than doing absolutely nothing, but there is no best way, there is no perfect way. There may be a best way for you, and that way may change over time. So I, as an exercise physiologist, as this podcast is about the method to the madness, I always like to get underneath things and figure out why things work and all that good stuff. And you see a lot of different types of programming out there, they may not call it programming, but when you pull up a workout somewhere online or you pull up a workout on social media, that's a form of programming. And, there's some good ones, there's some not as good ones, but you want to make sure that it's the right program for you. And there's a lot of different reasons why it may or may not be. So I want to get into that a little bit today. Here at the gym, we use pretty much 4 key styles of workout that work really well, that work pretty much equal to each other, but it depends on the type of person as to what we are going to use or which one we're going to use. And as I say in my introduction, and I say it every time, I've been in business for 28 years, so I have a feeling, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So we're doing something right. And we have some of the same clients for literally over 20 years, the same clients 3 times a week, consistently on a regular basis. So again, we're doing something right. Are other people doing things right too? Of course. This isn't a zero-sum game. There's a lot of good physiologists out there, a lot of good trainers, but we're doing something right with that longevity. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about how we decide. So one of the first programming tools I use is just basically the classic single set to failure routine. We begin that with a lot of different people, and let me explain that before we go on. Now, there used to be a whole lot of debate going on as far as, that's one thing I will say that's gotten better in the exercise world is there isn't as much total dichotomy of my side's better than your side. There's not as much of that now. I think a lot of people realize we need to get people to exercise, and if you come up with a program that gets people active in a safe way, safe as in they're not hurting their joints or whatever, then it's a good way to exercise. And so now I think a lot of people realize there's a lot of good ways, but I could tell you 20 years ago there was this big battle between low volume training and high volume training people. And the low volume training people, they did tend to have more of a physiology background, it seemed like. And it was really just cut to the chase. What are we trying to do? What muscles do we need to work? Get them to fatigue and move on. And then the high volume folks tended to come more from the real old school bodybuilding genres. And they just thought that was nonsense and you can't work your whole body in 30 minutes and you have to do split routines and all this kind of stuff. Now I'd say, 20 years later, there's not as much of that battle. I think some of the different groups that have come out and done shorter, briefer workouts have kind of proven that fitness is more about quality versus quantity. So we don't see the division anymore, but there still are different types of training that people utilize or don't utilize, and some people are still very, very, very militant about sticking to it, which again I think is kind of pointless. I think every tool in the toolbox can work effectively if you apply it to the right part, right? So the single set to failure is just very simply a basic set of workout programming that is one of the first that the American College of Sports Medicine recommended for people, because it's pretty simple, it's very efficient, and you can use it with lots of different populations of people, from novices to seniors to elites. And basically it's picking 10 to 12 of the major muscle groups. So your glutes, your quads, your hamstrings, your pecs, your upper back, which is your lats, your deltoids, your biceps, your triceps, your abdominals, your lower back, and your calves. And working them with the right exercise to what we call volitional fatigue. They've changed the term to volitional fatigue, and that basically means going on your repetitions until you can't. They used to call it failure, but some people think, oh man, that's, negative connotations, and that's kind of silly. It's muscular failure. You're a failure. But basically that you go to that point of intensity and then you move to the next exercise and you do a single set. So there's a lot of variations to that. We just call that single set programming, and that is one of the core four that we absolutely use. And it works, and it still works for the elites to this day, meaning it's just, people would say, oh, you can't just do one set. That's not true. Now, this podcast isn't about like all of the physiology underneath that today. I'm trying to go over all the different workout routines, but I can absolutely do that and explain to you why that's not true. The bottom line is, if you get the muscle to failure, you have done what you needed to do. And if you recover appropriately, meaning eat right and sleep, the muscle will grow. So it's absolutely an effective way to do your programming. And is it for everybody? No, not necessarily. It's a very hard way to train. Like, you have to be pretty tolerant to being able to take a lot of lactic acid, because you are going hard. That's the idea. You're going hard. So to get the most out of minimal training, you have to go hard. And so it hurts. It hurts as in muscle-wise, lactic threshold-wise, it hurts. So you got to be able to take that, and it's an effective, again, way to train. We begin a lot of people that way because we learn a lot about them that way. And by the way, when I say begin, it doesn't mean like the very first day they come to the gym, we're just going to take them to failure and like they're going to be burning their muscles and one more. No. It's just the programming. We build into that. But the programming is basically 1, maximum 2 exercises per muscle group, done between 12 and 15 reps, sometimes 20, taken to volitional fatigue, which is failure, and then moving to the next exercise. And the whole strength training session takes just about 30 minutes. So that is one of our programming that works extremely well. Some people really never move off of it. Some people have stayed on it longer than 20 years. And here's the key. Why do things work for people? That's programming that works for people that, my last podcast, if you remember, was on ADHD and OCD and things like that, which we all have some semblance of it, I believe, these days. So if you do tend towards ADHD, it's probably not overly effective for you because you're going to get bored doing the same thing all the time. Changing the exercises, of course. We'll change the exercises, we'll change the order, all those things to still get the nice principle of variety. But, other than that, the methodology stays quite the same. So for some people, it's very boring. For others that tend to be maybe a little more like OCD or structured and don't like change, it's perfect. And they just keep getting better and better, and then they'll hit a point where they're basically staying stagnant. Then we'll change the exercise, then they'll get better and better. So it works really, really good. It works for people that like simplicity, that can duplicate it at other places, that love order, that don't like change. See, that's the key. It's not the physiology behind why it works. It's more the psychology. Okay, so that's one of the forms of programming we use in the Core 4. The second one has a funny name. We call it the John. Hopefully John's going to listen to this podcast and he can hear that he's been named after one of our Core 4. And the reason why we call it the John is because we really started using it a lot with a fella, a very fit, nice fella by the name of John. And, it just became the point where when I was describing the type of workout to Ellen to do, I'll say, do the John, do the John. And so basically the John is still an efficient workout. I would say it incorporates a little bit more cardio though, because it's more of a programming where you're moving more. Like single set, you're moving to the next exercise, but in the John, it's more you're really going back and forth between 3 exercises and then 3 more exercises. Okay, so the way it works is in all good strength training programs, you're getting at least your major squat, your major lunge, your major push, your major pull, and a hinge, and then some core. So basically like 6 movements, okay? That should be a part of every workout. So in the single set programming I mentioned before, you're doing the same thing. You're just doing more exercises in that. In the John, you're doing less exercises, but you're doing multiple sets, and you're doing more core exercises, not core as in stomach, but more major exercises. Okay, so the way it works is in the John, we'll pick a squat exercise base. So that could be a regular squat, it could be an air squat, it could be a cable squat, it could be a dumbbell squat, it could be a goblet squat, it could be a leg press, whatever. Then we'll pick a major push, like a chest press, it could be a push-up, it could be a bench press, dumbbell press. Then we'll pick a major pull, it could be a pull up, it could be a pull down, could be a row, could be a pull over. And they'll do those 3 exercises, and we will rotate 3 times through. So 3 sets through. So that's 9 sets, okay? 9 sets in the first circuit. Rep ranges, again, there's nothing magic about rep ranges. Some people think, oh, this rep range is perfect for this and that. It's really not true. And again, I can do a whole podcast on speed of movement and all. Really, it's like, splitting hairs. Pick a good range where you're using enough load, you're getting enough reps. I mean, really, it's that simple. If you do everything you do one time, you're not going to get a lot out of it, okay? I mean, that's just kind of common sense. Make it that simple. So we'll do like 15 on the first set, maybe 12 on the second, 10 on the third, or all 3 sets of 15. Or maybe if the person needs more repetitions because they need more cardio, because doing more reps makes you move for a longer period of time, then we'll do higher reps. But essentially that's the John, and then we do 2 circuits of that. So a total of 9 sets the first time in the exercises I just defined, and then they take a little break, and their break is an active break. So we'll usually do like a core exercise in between, like 30 crunches, 30 frog kicks, or we'll do like 2 blocks in between, and then we move on to circuit 2. And circuit 2 is basically the same format but different exercises. So we might pick a lunge instead of a squat. So we'll do like a lunge or a split squat or a step up. We'll do a different form of a press. So this time it might be overhead press. And we'll do a different form of a pull. So instead of, say, pull up, they might do a row or something like that. And sometimes instead of the split squat or lunge, we'll do a deadlift. And it really just depends on what the person needs, but it'll be a lower body, a push, and a pull. And again, we'll do 3 rounds of 3 sets in there, and changing the rep ranges or keeping them the same. And a big difference is they're really moving. So it's like squat, take a deep breath, go over, press, take a deep breath, go over, pull, back to squat. So it's really moving. We're doing the core, the main exercises, so we're not doing a lot. We'll do arms, bis, and tris sometimes, but in the John, it's more of, say, working more on functional performance. So it's going to be more of the main exercises, okay? the main exercises. So that's a bit of programming that works really, really good. As good as the first? I mean, again, it depends. It depends on, if somebody doesn't move overly quick, which of course we're going to have some clients that's the case for whatever reason, the John isn't going to necessarily be appropriate, right? They're not going to be able to move quick enough. So we'll go back to the single set methodology. But again, I don't want to make it sound like the single set is like a step down from it. They're equal. They're different. They're both hard. We want to make the workouts effectively hard. That's what people are paying for. That's what we like to do. I mean, it's quality over quantity. We don't want people to come to the gym, and if they're doing their weights for 30 minutes or whatever, then we don't want them to sit there and just go through the motions with easy stuff. We're challenging them in the right way to always work harder and do what they're supposed to do. All right. The third of the core four, we use a lot more with our younger generation, and we have a lot of younger athletes. With that, it's a form of a circuit a lot of the time, but we're really teaching them the basic exercises because we want them to know how to do it right. Like, we know it's inevitable that if somebody goes to the gym that in high school, okay, any of the high schools, that some coach is going to teach them how to squat. Sometimes the squat isn't overly appropriate for some kids, certain ages, and definitely the way they teach it in the schools sometimes. So we want to teach it right so they can teach themselves. So if they are in PE, in gym class, and they're doing weights or whatever, or they're at a camp somewhere, I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of these coaches are not very well versed and trained in teaching weightlifting, and they just go by what they know, and that's not a lot sometimes, and we don't want kids to get hurt, so we feel it's our duty to teach them right. So we will do a circuit of teaching the kids the right exercises, how to do it, and alternatives for them. And again, we teach the basics. So in this programming, which we basically just call general strength of the core four, then they're going to do a squat exercise. Then they're going to move into a bench press exercise and really teach them. Then they're going to move into a pull up or pull down because that's the major exercise of the upper back, right? And then we typically will do like a fourth in there, like a curl, a bicep curl, or it could be another leg exercise. It really just depends, and I'll explain the difference between this and the John in a second. And then at the very end of the workout, they're going to do a little bit of ab work, like 3 sets of 30 on sit-ups or crunches or something like that, or planks. The difference is they're doing this exercise, they're not doing 2 rounds of it. They're doing 1 round of typically 5 sets. So on the squat, for example, we might do a pyramid. So they'll start with 20 reps, then they'll do 15 reps, then they'll do 12 reps, then they'll do 10 reps, and then they'll do 8 reps, something like that. So that's 5 sets. And then we'll pyramid them up in the bench press as well. They're still doing a circuit. We like to teach circuits, and one of the beauties about most high school kids and the high school athletes or younger that come in is they're in pretty good condition. So they can rest their lower body muscles while they're doing their upper body muscles. So we like, again, to keep them moving. It simply keeps the formatting pretty efficient. So they'll go from that, again, they'll go to the bench, and then we'll do a pyramid, which I just explained what that is. It's decreasing the reps and increasing the load as we go. And then we'll go to a major pull, and then like to pull up or pull down, depending on their fitness levels. And we've had some kids so fit, believe it or not, we can do a pyramid with the pull-ups. They do so many that on their next set, they put a dumbbell between their legs and they do more reps. So we've had some we've had kids that can do 30 pull-ups, which is crazy great. And then again, they'll do curls or sometimes dips, sometimes shoulder raises for that next exercise. It just depends on what we think they need. And of course, there's variety in there. I mean, it could be a different exercise every time in that one. But it's basically the core exercises. They're learning general strength. They're learning how to do it right. And they are doing it as a format, basically. But sometimes, again, these are just workout templates, So sometimes they won't do it as a circuit. Sometimes it'll be, If we're training a little bit heavier, we'll do all the straight sets at one time before moving to the next. But it's a general format that we'll know. Like if a kid, high school kid comes in, they're playing soccer, they're playing baseball, and I sit down with them, I do a screening, and I do all that good stuff. And let's say Ellen's going to take them through the workout. I'll say, well, we're doing your typical strength training program for the high school athlete. Oh, okay. And I mean, again, it's all written out, but at the same time, she gets the gist of the type of program we're on. It keeps everything simple. It works very, very well. Now, I hate to spoil this for you. The Core 4 sounds so cool, and I have to be honest here. I stole it from the New York Yankees, what they call the Core 4, of four of my favorite players of all time: Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, Andy Pettitte, and Mariano Rivera. All came up in 1994, 95, and they called them the Core 4. It just sounds so cool, okay? So I'm using it, and I took it. Don't tell them. They might be really mad at me. But, if you want, you can pass this podcast off to Derek Jeter. That would be really, really awesome. But anyway, so I like to call it the Core 4 for that reason, and it just sounds pretty cool. So another part of formatting that I use is what we call the metabolic workout. Now, the metabolic workout is for people who really, now, I shouldn't say this because sometimes it's for people that don't want to lose weight or whatever, but we'll use it on certain days of the week when we need more reps, which I'll explain in a second. But a metabolic workout's premise is really on keeping the heart rate up the whole time, and it's combining traditional strength exercises with very high reps, and it's put into a form where you're keeping your heart rate up the whole time. And you can interchange different movements in there that are more aerobic movements by nature, like jumping jacks or burpees and things like that. So that's a metabolic workout, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. A lot of times it's for helping people to kind of help them drop more weight, because you get more afterburn after that kind of workout. Afterburn is basically that your metabolism is a little revved up for a few hours after the workout because your heart rate's so high. So it helps with that. It's very, very time efficient. Like, if somebody only has 15 to 20 minutes to train, it's a great way to do it. The caveat to this is you have to be in good shape all the way around, for the most part, to do it right, because the movements are typically hard exercises. I say this a lot, and this could be a podcast all by itself, but for some reason, body weight exercises people think are easy. And, us trainers laugh at that. It's like, body weight exercises really are among the hardest exercises to do. In other words, doing effective push-ups is hard. If you take a 10-year-old and have him try to do push-ups, it's a struggle just to try to get them to do it right. And that's not a knock on any 10-year-old. They don't have the development most of the time to be able to do a push-up. But if you put them on a chest press machine, where you can lower the load to like 5 pounds in each handle, they can push 10 pounds out, right? But now so that's easier, right? So you're putting them on this strength training machine. Oh no, they shouldn't do strength training, they should do body weight. And I'm like, no, it's the other way around. The machine is easier, or even the bar is easier. But if you're asking, say, a 100-pound kid to do a push-up, and he's 10 years old, and now you're asking him to do basically 70% of his body weight, because that's how it works in a push-up. You're essentially pushing up 70% of your body weight. So the heavier the kid is, the harder it's going to be, whether they're muscular or tend to have more body fat on them. So body weight exercises are hard. Squats are harder than, say, a leg press. Pull-ups are way harder than pull-downs, right? So you have to be able to effectively do a lot of different body weight exercises to do a typical. You can make metabolic workout on machines and other things, yes, but to do a typical metabolic workout, you have to kind of have a nice fitness foundation to begin. It's not easy. So a workout could be two different ways. You can plan it where they're doing each exercise for time, like, say, a minute burpees followed by a minute squat followed by a minute push-ups followed by a minute's worth of pull-ups, and you can maybe add one more exercise, and you can do that 5 times. Or you can add 10 exercises and do it 2 times, so it's like 20 minutes. So that's one way. Again, just trying to give you like our core 4. So that's a metabolic workout. Another one that people tend to like is there's a set amount and then you time it. So, for example, I did one today just for the upper body. So it was 20 pull-ups followed by 100 push-ups followed by 50 renegade rows followed by 100 bench press with lightweight followed by 200 crunches, and then it was per time. And I think I did it in, honestly, it's either 17 minutes or 13 minutes. I can't remember. I hit the stop on my watch and I don't know. But anyway, so that's a brief workout, but it's really hard, because, you're at the pull-ups and you knock out as many as you can, and then you just sit at the bottom of the bar and you count the 10 or whatever, and then you do more. And then you finally complete your pull-ups and you go to push-ups and you knock out as many as you can, and then you huff and puff and you knock out another set. And you keep doing it until it's complete, and then you see what your time is and you can compare it to other people. You can set up games or whatever. The only downside to it is you have to really watch your form, because when there's a time component, everybody or most people tend to get sloppy. I'm sure I did. I didn't have anybody watching over me. I was just doing it by myself at my house after my swim today. So, and I just felt like doing it. It was like, it looks pretty cool. I had some people do it earlier in the day, so I wanted to do it. And, sometimes that's a great reason to choose it. I talked about it before. I can struggle with that ADHD sometimes. I get bored. So it's like, yeah, that sounds fun. Let's do it. And then I think I was like into my second set of pull-ups, and I'm like, oh God, why did I pick this? So they're hard, but that's a metabolic workout, and we put that in the form of the Core 4. There's one guy we work with, Mr. Zachary. He's coming in tonight. He really does well with those kind of workouts. Like, he's strong as an ox, and he did like a lot of traditional weightlifting when he was an athlete in high school. He was a very competitive baseball player. He's still very athletic, and he just thrives on those kind of workouts. Maybe it's because he did so much traditional weightlifting in the past, but he really does best. So, my job as a physiologist, is using my psychology degree so often, how can I match the workout to the person? That's key. Like, how do I match it to them? Because I want them to be their best. So he thrives in that kind of situation. He's actually done well with most of them that I picked, but I think he's done best with the metabolic, and he's done second best with the single set to failure. Personally, for me, I like all of them. I like all of them. I've done well on both, and it just depends on where I'm at in training cycles and if I'm bored. But those are the typical. Now, before I wrap this up, are there other styles? Yes. There's split routines that I've done with people when they have more time to train, where they can train different muscle groups on every day. Basically every day they can train a different muscle group, and they have access to a gym. Those are key things. They have the time and they have the access. Then like I'll set that up for somebody, and that's fine. We could work on different muscle groups different days. So I just don't call that part of the Core 4, because most people don't train with me 5 days a week. They train 3 days a week. So we like to make workouts based on what they can do every other day that they can come in. So it's not like part of our normal programming, but split routines can work. The downside is to them, sometimes you can overtrain because you really end up doing more than you need to. They're not better than full bodies, and full bodies aren't better than them. They're all good. Really, with the split routine, and I can help anybody set one up if they want. If they say, I train with you these days, and these days I want to do these muscle groups. Okay, we can do that. Let's just do it intelligently, so we're not carrying over muscle groups we've done. We can do that. And then another form of training we'll do, of course, is rehab, and I do a lot of rehab. But rehab typically isn't that different from the single set to failure, and then with warm-up stuff too. So basically we're just targeting muscles, targeting exercises, and then helping them strengthen them to the best of their ability at the time. So of course we do those too. But those are the Core 4. They're all great. Okay, so again, just the recap: we have the single set programming, we have the John, which is kind of a circuit base, we have the basic exercise programming that we use for the kids, so basically the Getting Stronger program, and then we have metabolic workouts. They're all great. Oh, and by the way, one last thing. So typically when people are training with us, we might incorporate the metabolic, say, on a Monday, because Monday, if they're training with me 3 days a week, I like to split it up a little bit. So Monday might be lighter days with more reps, and Wednesday might be medium day, and Friday might be heavier day, I should say. So the metabolic workouts can be done on a Monday with a different style on a Wednesday and a different style on a Friday. So it's not like one person is lumped into one form of programming. It's that we can use that type of programming for everybody. And there are so many deviations of these. So I don't want you to think it's just like, one person does the same thing. It's just, this helps us stay organized, which for my OCD brain is very important. All right. So I hope this helps. I hope you find it interesting. Pass it on, please. And again, thank our sponsors, the Gildan Group. And until next time, be Max Fit, be Max Well.